Hi, it's time for another verb of the day. Today's verb is writhe. And this verb was suggested by the viewer Louise. Louise, thank you so much for this great idea. Now, let's begin to discuss some of the ways that we use this verb. The first way you might encounter the verb writhe means to make continual twisting, squirming movements or contortions of the body. Okay? So with this first definition, many times there's a certain feeling or emotion that is causing the person to twist or squirm. And contort kind of means moving in sort of what is thought to be a bit unnatural. So kind of not a just normal posture or normal way, but someone is moving and changing that shape of their body. Many times people will connect this to the idea of pain. And maybe you've seen it. I was watching a basketball game within the last couple of days, and I saw this happen. An athlete, I believe, injured his ankle, what it seemed to me, and he started rolling around on the floor, twisting and squirming until the trainer came out to see him. And I immediately thought, hey, I'm going to discuss this verb. A second way you might encounter the verb writhe means to respond with great emotional or physical discomfort to an unpleasant feeling or thought. And so, again, I still think of that first definition of kind of twisting and squirming, but now think of it occurring more internally. And so kind of that movement or squirming feeling, but this time, again, connected to a feeling or thought. For now, you should know that writhe is a regular verb. If you want to make the progressive form of this verb, you're going to drop the E on the end and then add ing. That forms writhing. The past tense and the participle forms of our verb can be made by just adding a D. Now, the base verb, writhe, ends with a voiced TH sound. There are two TH sounds in English. This one is voiced. This means our ED ending is just going to make a D sound, and I'm not going to add an extra syllable when I say it. So the past tense and the participle forms should sound like this. Writhed, writhed. Okay. Now let's move on and talk about some phrasal verbs. There are actually a number of different ways to use writhe as a phrasal verb, and we'll discuss them today. And I'll try and do a little verb tense review as we go along. The first phrasal verb you might encounter is to writhe at. This can mean to be uncomfortable or distressed by something. I think this is going to connect back most closely to that second definition. An example of this. The party has writhed at the Prime Minister's inept leadership. So, I feel like this example could apply to a number of different countries right now and their leadership. But you have, or what we're discussing is the political party being distressed by sort of how badly the leader is running the show. Another phrasal verb you might encounter is to writhe in. This can have a couple different meanings. One way to use it means to move in a twisting or contorted or squirming kind of motion, and you're sort of within or you are inside of something. An example of this. He has been writhing in bed all morning. Okay? So he is within the confines of his bed. Another way to use writhe in can mean to suffer intense physical or mental distress as a result of some sort of physical or emotional stimulus. An example of this. The audience writhed in discomfort watching the gruesome and poorly acted production. So here, maybe we're talking about a theater, a production, and the audience here is not enjoying themselves, right? So they might be doing this kind of like, oh, I don't even want to look at this. This is so gory, gruesome, and it's just not a very good production. So, quick review here. My 3 examples. The first, the party has writhed at the Prime Minister, is an example of present perfect. Has been writhing is an example of the present perfect progressive. And then the last example here is a simple past tense sentence. Now, let's continue our discussion. The next phrasal verb you might encounter is to writhe under. This can also have a couple different meanings. One way to use it is to move in a twisting or squirming motion. And usually this might be as a result of some kind of physical assault. So I think we'll be able to see this well in my example sentence. The soldiers were writhing under the blows of their captors. Okay, so maybe they're being struck with different objects, maybe just hitting with one's fists, but you can imagine they're perhaps in pain. Maybe they're squirming to try and get away, or to not have that physical contact in such an awful place on their body. That's an example of the past progressive. Now, a second way you can use writhe under means to suffer intense mental distress as a result of some kind of external force. An example of this: he writhed under all the attention being focused on him. Okay, so again, maybe we can kind of imagine someone feeling a bit panicky, or like in our definition here, distressed, because so many people are watching or paying attention to them. The last phrasal verb we're going to discuss is to writhe with. One way to use this phrasal verb, again, can mean to contain people or things that are moving, twisting, contorting, or having these kind of squirming motions. An example of this: the crowd at the front of the stage writhed with one another as the band played. Okay? So you might think of kind of a really raucous concert with maybe you've heard of a mosh pit with some rock concerts, kind of that idea of people jumping, running into each other, moving, twisting, etc. The second way you might encounter writhe with can mean to suffer intense mental distress as a result of some kind of emotional stimulus. An example with this: they writhed with pain upon hearing the news of the accident. Now, those last 3 examples were all simple past tense verbs. And I hope they've helped us understand some of those slightly different ways that we can use this verb. Now, let's spend a moment looking at some words that are related to our verb writhe. And the first word we're going to look at is an adjective. It's writhen. This word is more common to be found in literature. It does connect back. This is definitely not an everyday adjective you're going to encounter. It can mean twisted or contorted. Something is out of its normal shape or normal form. As I looked for examples of this adjective, I actually found it in a fair number of poems. And so that's what my example sentence is going to be here. The poet Sylvia Plath once wrote, "I circle the writhen trees, I am too happy." Okay? So why might she pick this? Right? Normally we would think of a tree as growing straight up, nice, tall, strong. But here, for some reason, these trees are a bit twisted or contorted with one another. They're not in their normal shape. Another word you might encounter is the adverb writhingly. This can describe something being done in a twisting or squirming kind of way. An example of this: her writhingly apologetic leadership has angered nearly everyone. So, as you may know, adverbs can describe adjectives. That's what they're doing in this sentence, or that's what writhingly is how it's being used in this sentence. The adjective apologetic right? Generally indicates someone is saying, I'm very sorry. It seems to be sincere. But here, again, it's like this person is always twisting or contorting themselves to apologize. And so they might be doing things that upset many people and then apologizing to all of those different groups. And none of that seems to be working here. Everyone seems to be upset. Well, those are all the related words I have today. So I want to thank you for watching, and I want to say a special thanks to Louise for suggesting another verb. I hope you all have a wonderful day.